you hit the, actually, you came into the notice of the BJP government when you self-published your book, The Gujarat Files. You went undercover to Gujarat to do this story. Can you tell them a little bit about how it was and what was the danger? I mean, it must have been incredibly brave of you to go into a state which is so should I say anti-Muslim? I don't want to say that like that, but
We
Gujarat
have to
say
say it. We have come to that stage. I think we
so.
have to say the word Muslim as many times as
So
possible.
anti-Muslim and also
Yeah,
anti-women in many ways.
absolutely.
What was it like to go undercover there and pretend to be a journalist who was sympathetic to the
So
RSS?
for all the young journalists sitting here, one piece of advice: never go undercover. Okay, it's going to wreck your life. Okay, it's going to destroy everything. It's going to destroy your peace of mind, not just because what the government does to you, but also I was Maithili Tyagi, this young Hindu American girl who spoke with a fake American accent. I had this French guy with me from Schwarzpo who became my first assistant director. I had 8 cameras on my body. I was going to everybody, including Amit Shah. I met Amit Shah in Gujarat Bhavan. I met Modi twice, and you know when
Which year was this? Can you
this
tell
is
the year, please?
2000. I met Modi in 2011 January, and rest of the sting operation was done between. I think July is when I got Amit Shah arrested with my call records, and I think September is when I went undercover with all these cameras on my body. The interesting bit is when I met Narendra Modi. Okay, so I'm Maithili Tyagi, and this guy with me is this French guy, and my hair is tied. I'm wearing these green lenses. I've got this visiting card says Maithili Tyagi, American Film Institute Conservatory. So Mr. Modi is very impressed. So the moment we walk into his room, I mean, he speaks fluent English by then. I mean, this is a lot of public posturing that he doesn't speak English. So there are books by Swami Vivekananda and Barack Obama on the table. So I see it, and my colleague, who's a French guy, he says, Mr. Modi, you are everywhere in Gujarat. In the auto, you are there. You know the thing with, I'm sorry I got a white guy with me because Mr. Modi loves giving access to white people in his office. Back in the day, he was like, he wanted the diaspora to, and we told him that we are making a film on the Indian diaspora who's living in America, who are so fond of you. And he says, Maithili, where, and he asked me about my family. And so I only wore my watch that day. The watch bit had a camera in it because I was just testing waters that day. And he said, he pointed to the book by Barack Obama on the table. He said, Maithili, I want to be like him. And and my colleague wanted to laugh, and I'm like, don't react, don't. And then he said, you have to eat lunch. And then he had an OSD, the officer on special duty, called Sanjay Bhav sir. So he said, Sanjay Bhai, he called him in. He said, Maithili, in Gujarati, he said, give her access to all the file footage and all the magazine and all the coverage. So I go and sit with the OSD. The irony of it, I'm sitting with him with my colleague, French colleague Mike, and there is a copy of Tehelka on the table. And I'm like, shit, this is going to be really dicey. Does he know who I am? So I said, sir, what is this publication? He's like, they all write, they do hit jobs. I mean, in Gujarati, he said they do hit jobs on the prime minister all the time. And and I am from Tehelka, right? And so he said, Mr. Modi has said that you should come on Sunday to have dinner with him. And I called up my editor. Back in the day, my editor was Tarun Tejpal. Of course, we know what he did. And that's when I resigned. And then he said, we're not doing this investigation any further. By then, we had already done the other parts of the sting operation. Um, and one more important incident that happened is I was interviewing this woman, police officer called Usha Rada, who was in the state anti-terror department, and this man called GL Singhal, who was one of the top officers in the Gujarat anti-terror squad. Um, so initially, when I went undercover, I would not tell them, I would not talk about the subject at all. We would talk about Osho because I knew Singhal was a fan of Osho, had done my homework. I would smoke a cigarette with him just to make him, put him at ease, talk about family. And then he spoke, when you get layers and layers of content when you do this kind of investigative journalism. Singhal said in that moment that I'm a Dalit man, and when I was growing up, they would not let me get into a general store or touch a bottle of chocolate, and they would slap me. So now when I'm in this position of power in the ATS Maithili, I feel the power. So I said, yeah, I know, you remember, there's a news in the newspapers about some girl called Ishrat Jahan. So Ishrat Jahan, if you don't know, was this woman that Modi killed in an extrajudicial encounter, calling her a Lashkar-e-Taiba terrorist. The irony there, I mean, there's a one piece of interesting fact which your generation might have forgotten. Mr. Modi did a press conference back in the day when Ishrat Jahan was shot dead. And on the road, her body is lying. She's a Lashkar-e-Taiba operative. And guess what? Her college I-card is in her neck. A Lashkar-e-Taiba operative goes about killing people with her college ID from Khalsa College in her around her. And Gujarat journalists were reporting it verbatim, right? So Singhal says, "Oh, when I shot the girl, I didn't know who she was." Straight in the face, right? And in my head, I'm like, oh my God, I have got some of the most damning revelations. I met the inspector who was investigating the Hareen Pandya murder. Now, Hareen Pandya was a rival to Prime Minister Modi in Gujarat, who was shot dead allegedly by um, Muslim guys, Muslim terrorist in Gujarat. The police officer said that the morning in the day Harin Pandya was murdered, the guy who murdered him was released from the jail that morning. Now, this was damning. Everybody knew. Harin Pandya's wife would come to me and say, "My husband is murdered. Everybody in the state knows this." And I'm like, okay, this is damning. And when this goes out, when this is published, Mr. Modi's career is going to be over. All right? I I come back to Tehelka, everybody is like, no, I think this is going to get us in trouble. And I'm like, dude, we have always been in trouble. We are Tehelka, we have done operation, we have done the defense camps, we have done sting operations. Why do you have a problem in this investigation? It went back and forth. I went to publishers, I went to Indian Express. They said, "Oh, we don't carry sting operations," and I'm like, "Seriously, you don't carry sting operations?"
Indian Express.
Indian Express. Do you remember the number of sting operations the Indian Express has carried? I went to almost every television news channel, including to Arnab Goswami. I called him desperation levels, right? He was with Times Now then. I mean, this is pre-Modi years. I called up everybody and nobody carried it. Then I said, okay, let me just go to publishers. I went to publishers. I remember I went to this one publisher in Delhi. The moment I went to her, that very evening she called up Tarun Tejpal saying, "Your reporter was here to write a tell-all book." The book was scuttled there itself. Finally, in 2016, by then I was blissfully unemployed. I had 40,000 rupees in my bank account. I resigned from Tehelka in 2013, and my mother had some gold left for my marriage. I think she had kept, I mean, good old mothers. I'm like, listen, I don't think your daughter is ever getting married. How about putting this gold to good use? So I took a gold loan and I published about 300 or 400 copies of Gujarat Files. It was a self-published book with a lot of grammatical errors in the book. If you have read it, you will know what I'm talking about. I published it, and in the hall in that evening in Delhi at India Habitat Center, I think, for a space meant for 100 people, there are about 600 people. The top of the Delhi, like Delhi had never seen a book launch like that. I got a standing ovation on the panel with me. No, 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 don't clap yet. The story is coming. I mean, don't clap yet. So on the panel, there is Rajdeep Sardesai, and there is Indra Jaising and Hartosh Singh Bal and me. And everybody is like, one publisher stands up and says, "Why didn't you come to us?" So I'm like, okay, the book is self-published, you can still publish it. And the publisher just went quiet. Okay, I'm getting a standing ovation. All the editors are messaging me, "What you have done is unprecedented. Nobody has done this." I'm like, this is going to be the headlines in all newspapers tomorrow. Now, you know what happened the next day? Nobody covered it, right? The book was only popular thanks to social media. So before Elon Musk came in, I mean, there were things that social media did that helped us.
But it was a bestseller,
It
wasn't
was,
it?
for once, it toppled Chetan Bhagat's book.
That's
So
why.
for once it did. So I think we sold about, till today, we have sold about 7 lakh copies in 13 languages. For a self-published book, I think it was a big feat. But yes, when I came out of the sting operation, I think what it did to me for a couple of months is the anxiety attack started, and then the idea that I was Maithili Tyagi, I had conditioned myself so much to being Maithili Tyagi that if anybody called me Rana, I would not respond to Rana. I would only respond to Maithili. So to come back and start responding to Rana and forget Maithili was a big, I think it just, I was dazed, I was depressed. I didn't know what was happening to me. And to top it all, when your organization says you're not going to publish the investigation, it's literally the death of a journalist. You feel responsible for it. You feel that probably I have not done enough. Probably I could have done more. Probably I am not a good journalist. There's self doubt that comes in. And then the knowledge and the understanding that at some point the people you have done a sting operation on will know who you are and they will come after you, which eventually happened when I released the book. Um, so yes, it was a challenge, but on a very grim note, I'm going to tell you a very interesting episode from Gujarat file. There's officer called Usha Rana. She was very fascinated with Americans. She wanted to go to and settle in New York. Okay, so every time Mike and I would go, she would treat us to all the Gujarati delicacies. So one day, I had a kurta, a Kashmiri kurta with a camera stitched inside. It was green kurta, and a lot of police officers always ask me, "Why do you always wear this kurta?" And I'm like, "It's my favorite kurta. You know, my mom got it. That's memories of my mother. It was the only kurta with a camera. So I'd sometimes team it up with a pashmina shawl. So I am already the camera. So the thing is, you can record max 2 to 2.5 hours with that camera. So, and there is a button towards the end of the kurta. So you have to kind of press it, and then somehow you have to peep in because that's when the red light goes on, and then you know the camera is on. But after 2 or maximum 3 hours of recording, it starts getting really hot there. So you have to kind of keep doing this, okay? And people are wondering that in this cold weather, why is she doing this? So I'm going to Usha Rada, I'm talking to her, then she says, Methili, we're going to watch a film today. And I'm all prepared to grill her. So she takes me to a movie hall, and the movie that is being shown, there is a film called No One Killed Jessica. That film was
Jessica
made on
Lange.
a Tehelka investigation. The irony does not die here, okay? And we are about to get into the theater, and there is this metal detector, and we're about to cross, and I'm like, if these guys check me, this is going to start beeping and I'm going to be caught because they're going to ask what is here, right? And at some point, call it divine intervention, call it what you may. Some police officer looks at Usha Rada and says, "Arey, madam, you come from this side." So we didn't have to go through the security detector. And then we go in, we're sitting. So it says, acknowledgement में it says, thank you to Tehelka. And then she says, Methili, our Tehelka, in Gujarati she says, our Tehelka ma log, these Tehelka people are bastards. I said, okay, what do they do? She's like, they put cameras on their body and record people. And it is, I just didn't know, I didn't know if I had to, I was living a nightmare and I'm supposed to live the nightmare with a straight face. And the fact that something was going in that I was feeling that fear is when I realized I did not get my periods for 6 months. So the body kept account, right? I might have thought that I am not feeling the fear, but I did not get my periods for 6 months. And that's when I realized something was wrong with my body because I was internalizing that fear because in my head I had told myself that I'm not allowed to feel the fear. I cannot show my reaction to people. Um, there was this very well-known lawyer in Gujarat who's fighting all the fake encounter cases. And I was sitting with this police commissioner, PC Pandey, okay? I did not know PC Pandey is friends with this Gujarat lawyer. So I am sitting in the house, and PC Pandey is the commissioner of police, Modi's second, I think he was literally the one taking orders from Modi. So I see this lawyer coming and I see PC Pandey and I'm like, this lawyer knows me as Rana Ayyub. What do I do? This is me, this is going to be busted. So what do I do? So then I'm like, Mr. Pandey, I think I want to throw up. Can I use the washroom? He said, yeah, yeah, what? And he calls his wife. I go into the washroom and I put my finger in and I start making that noise and I'm vomiting, whatever. And then I am not leaving the washroom. And then his wife, Kumkum, I don't remember what her name was, she knocks on the door. I said, ma'am, can you give me a blanket? I'm freezing, I'm shivering. It was hot, okay? And I am in the blanket for 2 hours till Sheikh did not leave. All right, so which is why I'm saying do not do sting operations. It's not good for your mental health, it's not good for your physical well-being. I only did that sting operation because I had no alternative left to investigate the case by regular journalistic means. In an ideal world, I would not be doing it a sting operation. And I really say that keeping all the ethics in mind, I don't think it's an ethical practice. I do feel sometimes for the people I did a sting operation on because somewhere Some people, good people, who did not have the spine to speak the truth. I don't know, but it was the only thing that could have brought the truth of Gujarat out. Did it? Did it? I don't know, but I did publish. It's of my conscience. I have given it to the world. Now it's up to the world to decide what it does with the truth.
Thank you, Rana. That was really very, very, let's see, like a gripping novel or something, listening to you talk about your undercover adventures in Gujarat. But moving to the present day, you are a woman, a Muslim, and you're a journalist. Do you feel that when you do a story, the attempts that are used to silence a woman are not just physical? Of course, the threats are there, always a fear is there, but there is also a lot of character assassination. There is that constant, the one that you said when you did a story and your editor refused to accept it. I'm sure a lot of us here know that feeling. When you go to a story and show it to editor and he says, no, this is, he or she said, this is not good enough. So you start, there is self doubt. Are you good enough for this job? Aren't you good enough as your male counterpart? So, and I think women do it more to themselves than anyone else. So, when in this current scenario, when you're going through all this, what is it that helps you bounce back and keep? And you are still writing, you are still reporting, you are still taking on the government headlong. They haven't managed to silence you, despite the body shaming, the trolling, the character assassination. Oh, Rana the fraud, Rana the money launderer, Rana this, Rana the anti-social, the anti-Indian, and so on. What is it that makes you want to fight back, and where do you get that courage and strength from?
I don't think I have the courage really. If you see me when I have an anxiety attack, you would not call me courageous at all because I'm calling my GP and saying, Doctor, I think I'm dying. I think it's a heart attack. He's like, No, Rana, it's an anxiety attack. It's going to pass. So I don't think I'm courageous. I think I'm a, I'm a very scared human being. I'm scared for my family. I'm scared for myself. I'm scared for the loss of reputation that they're trying to cause to me. I'm scared for the character assassination they're doing to me every time I tweet something and below this they say, oh, money launderer, escape the money, escape the country with 10 crore rupees. The amount keeps increasing every day. From 1 crore, it has now gone to 12 crore and 15 crores. And all of them believe that I live in America. I don't live in India. Paisa leke bhag gaye, and it does hurt you. I would not claim to be courageous. I'm not courageous. And no journalist has to be courageous, I think. I think this it's a misnomer, this idea that journalists have to be brave to do their journalism. I think we need to kind of remove that bit because journalists just have to be human with a moral compass to know whether the story is right or wrong, to know the difference between the oppressor and the oppressed. As far as my Muslimness is concerned, it is not just a concern with the right wing, but also with the liberal establishment, right? So after Gujarat Files released, I was doing an interview with News Laundry and Madhu Trehan was interviewing me. And she said, Rana, would you have done Gujarat Files if you were a Hindu? I just wanted to look into her face and say, but how could you ask that question? Would you ask that question to Hartosh Singh Bal saying, Hartosh, would you have done the story on 1984 if you weren't a Sikh? Or where Rahul Pandita be asked, did you write the book because you were a Kashmiri Pandit? Why is that honor reserved only for Muslims? Why am I on television when you introduce me, the Muslim journalist Rana Ayyub? Why am I a Muslim journalist? I am, yes, for the government, it benefits the government to label me as a Muslim journalist or somebody like Zubair, a Muslim journalist, because we are people who you discredit by because our work is not coming from a place of ethics and journalistic values, but what they believe is the job of the Ummah and the Jihad. Even the character assassination of me is what do they call me on Twitter? Jihadi Jane, ISIS sex slaves, BB. It's not just sexualized and it's not just misogynistic. It's also very it's Islamophobic. The idea is how, for instance, for lack of a better example, I put out a tweet a couple of years ago and I said that one has to laud the perseverance and patience of the Muslim community in India, that despite the everyday mob lynching, they refuse to take bait and they have not become radicals. They still believe in the idea of India. And a very well-known liberal news anchor said, are you trying to instigate Muslims in India? What I said, now if a normal non-Muslim person had said that, they would not have questioned that person. right? There are a number of times I have been asked by liberals on Twitter for once act as an Indian and not as a Muslim. My Indianness is always in question. Because I apparently am not doing my work because I believe in the journalism. That my father was a part of the progressive writers movement. He was an editor, he was one of the writers in the Blitz. That my brother, who used to be the publisher of GQ and Vogue, lost his job because of me. But I still write because I believe in this profession, because I love this profession, not because I'm a Muslim. My Muslimness is a part of my identity, and I'm not trying to dissociate myself from it. It is a part of my spiritual life, and I am proud to be one, right? But how does that influence my work? Yes, my lived experience as a Muslim reflects itself in its work. Like Toni Morrison would always say, your lived experience is your biggest asset. Why is it that when I write about what happened to me and my family during the anti-Muslim carnage in 93, or when I went to Gujarat in 2002 as a relief worker, why should that be seen as, oh, don't make it about yourself? No, I'm not making it about myself. I am saying if this can happen to me, a privileged upper class Muslim in India, why would that not happen to an average Muslim on the street? Right? That's all I'm, but even that is held against me. The right wing, what do I say about the right wing? It's their job. They're paid to do this. They're paid to discredit me. What bothers me is the silence and the both sidism of people who should know better. I mean, we're seeing that about Gaza, right? When October 7 happened, I think I have seen, I mean, we all know what liberal journalists in India look like, but the way they were parroting the line of the IDF, right? Not concerned about the history of Israel and Palestine, the way they were parroting the lines of the IDF and posting pictures with IDF soldiers. These are liberal journalists we're talking about. And we see liberal journalists in India cheering for war during Uri, and we call ourselves feminists. Feminists do not cheer for war. So we do not do that. And we see them doing it day and night, and we still give them the Padma Awards in this country. I'm sorry to say this. I think Palestine, what is happening in Gaza, I mean, we always saw that in India, has revealed how hypocritical we are and how morally dead we are as a society. That 150 journalists have died in Gaza, but the world is not interested. That people are being slaughtered every day and the world is not interested. That when I tweet about Gaza, I'm being seen through a blinkered lens. That I am only concerned about them because they're Muslims. Right? When I wrote about Shireen Abu Akleh, a lot of people said, oh, because she's a part of your ummah. The ignorance don't even know Shireen Abu Akleh was a Christian woman. Right? They don't know the basic difference. So this is what
Shireen was a woman who was killed.
he was killed, and the IDF sent a notice to the Washington Post asking me to render an apology because I said the Israeli state murdered Shireen Abu Akleh, and they said she has made a preposterous statement, and they asked me to delete that statement, delete the tweet. I did not, and thankfully at that point of time, at least the Washington Post did not ask me to back off or just leave or delete that tweet. But that pressure exists. It does not just exist in India. In 2023, I must have done some 25 events. In 2024, I did 3 international events only because of Gaza. And that's the price we must pay. And I think one thing that I have realized again from writers before me is that one must not strive to be popular either in India or anywhere else in the world. Being popular is not going to take you anywhere. One has to do the right thing irrespective. Popularity is not going to take me anywhere. I do feel like a loser sometimes when I wake up in the morning. I do feel, I'm going to confess this. Like, I wake up in the morning, I feel like, oh, I'm a loser. I'm not reporting. I'm not going out and doing my reporting. You know what? So what if I have cases against me? So what if this is happening to me? Because at the end of the day, your conscience keeps asking you questions. Why aren't you doing enough? I have so much self-doubt in me right now that sometimes my therapist looks at me and stares at me saying, where is this coming from? It's coming from a place where I feel very inadequate. You might think very differently of me, but my self-talk with myself is very, it feels like a lot of insecurity. And that comes from the dehumanization that the government subjects you to, that you start doubting yourself. And that's the price nobody talks about.